All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at the Are You Ready, page 25, that has to do with writing percents as decimals. And you actually have some experience with this because when we look at the 25th day out of 175 days of school or something like that, we write this as a fraction, we divide it to get a decimal, and then we move that decimal point twice over to find a percentage. This is kind of moving backwards.
Third round at this time. Please repeat third round at this time.
We're actually moving
third round
backwards. So to write a percent as a decimal, you're going to remove the percent symbol and divide by 100 because we're at out of 100. So we move the decimal point 2 places to the left. All right. So if we're looking at 6.4, it's got a decimal here. We're moving it 1 point, another one. So we have to add that 0 in to be a placeholder, and then a 0 to the left of the decimal as well. If we're dealing with something that's over 100%, the decimal lives right here after the ones place always. We don't always write it because we don't need it if we don't have anything that's smaller than 1 that's coming after it. So we just move it 2 times over and it ends up 1.25. So let's do a couple of examples. Let's look at number 6. Number 6 is 6%, or number 2, excuse me. The decimal's right here. We're going to move it once, twice, so we need a 0. Here's where that lands, and it becomes 0.06. On 117%, we're going to drop that percentage. Here's where that decimal lives, right here, and it's going to go over 1, 2, and land right there. So it's going to land in 1.17%, which makes sense because it's 100% plus 17 more percent. All right. Go ahead and head to the back of this page, and I want to kind of show you the opposite. If you're starting with the decimal and you're moving to a percent, you're actually going to times it by 100 and add a percent symbol. So if we're right here, we're going to move it twice to the right instead. So that's 14 with a decimal, and then we're going to add that percent symbol. So it's actually 14%. If you're working with like 2.3, we know that's over 100% because it's 2 fulls. So we're going to move once, move again, and put a dot. So that's 230%. All right. These are the same as the front. Up here, multiplying some of these, what's cool about these is you're not using a calculator to do any of these. You don't need a calculator because they're just some basic facts. What you're going to do is multiply all of these numbers together. So 2 times 2 times 4. 2 times 2 is 4 times 4 is 16. Now, you have the answer of 16, but you've got a couple of zeros going on. So 16, you are multiplying it by 2 zeros, which is getting bigger by 2 zeros, right? But then you're multiplying it by something that's in the hundreds, so it's getting smaller by 2 zeros. So your decimal goes right back there. So you're actually still left just with 16. It kind of canceled itself out. 2 to the left and 2 to the right. If you're doing it this way, you've got 3 times 6 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 6 is 54. And you're moving 1 over to the right. That's 540, but then you're moving 2 back over to the left because we're kind of going by hundreds, so that's 5.4. So if you've got anything to the right of the decimal point, you're moving the decimal left that many times. If you've got any zeros to the left of the decimal point, you're moving right that many times. It's kind of funky, but try number 3 and 4. And that is it.